I'm Nate the House Whisperer, and in part one of this video, we figured out what your ballpark heating and cooling costs are for your house. So now that we have those figured out, we can get an idea of what future costs might be if you electrify everything in your house. So let's go take a look at what that looks like. So we're going to fill out this form. So we're going to get kind of geeky. This may not be for everybody, but I'll show you exactly how to do it. You can just copy this. So I will post a link. This is the carrier operating cost calculator. And they're not a sponsor or anything like that. This is just something we happen to find useful, and we happen to use carrier equipment on most of our projects. But here's how you figure all this out. So you need to have a good load calculation. And a good load calculation requires a blower door because the air leakage of your house is 30 to 70% of how much it takes to heat and cool your house. So if you don't have that, you really can't know what it takes to heat and cool your house. But in this case, we can back into it. So in part one, we figured out what the costs were for gas and electric. And now we're going to back into how that works. So put in your zip code here. You can just let these default to whatever they default to for now. Put in your gas costs. So here in Cleveland, all in, it's something like 70 cents. We're not going to use oil. We're going to compare gas and electric. And these are actually pretty close to correct. 12 cents for summer and electric. There's a meter fee on top of that, but we can't avoid that. And then what we're going to do, we're going to select the systems. So we're going to start with where the thing is. So we'll start with pretending like it's where I am in Cleveland. So we'll do, you can scroll all the way down. So if you have a somewhat older air conditioner, it's probably going to be like a SEER 10. Say it's 10, 15, 20 years old, something like that. That's a fair guess. You can take a look at what you have outside, take a picture of the model number, and then go look up the model number online and see exactly what it is if you want to. And then for the furnace, I'm just going to select an 80%er. So AFU 80 it means 80% efficient, and this is typical for a slightly older furnace. So one that would be due for replacement. And it will then calculate your costs. So in part one, you figured out about what it was to heat and cool your house. So I'm just going to change these to something that's fairly typical in what we will see in a client house here, post-project. And if you change your zip code, that will change, where what the climate assumptions are. This is based on RightSoft, which is pretty much the industry standard, and it's the best load calculation software out there as considered by most HVAC contractors. Very complicated, very difficult. It's really nice that this exists because it's kind of a simple version. All right, so if this matches up with what you figured out, say it's $350 a year for cooling, or actually, sorry, $274 for cooling, $766 for heating. The reason that these are not quite the same is this will also have, the heating cost is also going to have some electric cost for running the fan. Okay, so let's take a look if we go to AC and gas furnace and we go absolute top of the line. So, well, one small step down. So we're going to call this the VNA 9 here. This is the 18 or 20 SEER air conditioner. This is not a piece of equipment I would ever recommend. Always get the heat pump version, which is a VNA 8. Don't get the 9, but this is just for demonstration purposes. And then the MN7 is the top of the line furnace. So that's 98% efficient. And it's fully modulating, so it's got a nice throttle on it. So if you were going for the nicest reasonable air conditioner and furnace, this is probably what you get. So you put those in, and you can see what the cost difference is. So that shows that it's going to save $296 a year. So let's go take a look at an Electrify Everything path. So there's two main ones you can do for this. So we're going to select heat pump split, and then we're going to start with the step down one, which is the VNA 8. This will work for any of the warmer parts of the country, more than likely very fine. It can work in my climate, but it is starting to get towards the edge of what it's good at. And then you want to select FE4 air handler. All right. And don't pay any attention to what it actually puts in here. That isn't necessarily the unit that you're going to want. But you can see compared to your base case, it's going to cost $280 a year more. And we find this is reasonably close as long as your load calculations are okay. So you need to trust your load calculation really well, and this likely needs to be below the industry standard load calculation of manual J, because you want to use a load calculation that doesn't have a lot of fudge factor in it. You want something close to reality. Okay, so that is step down one, and then for the top of the line, we'll select VNA 0 here, 25 VNA 0, and then also select that FE4 air handler. And this helps give you an idea. So in the case of this house, if you go to the absolute best air conditioner and furnace that you can, it's going to save you about $300 a year. If you electrify everything, it's going to cost you about $56 a year over where you are now. Now this is where the gas meter fee matters, because the meter fee here happens to be $350. So if you add these two together, it's $352. So that's close. The other thing to note here too is weather is going to shift this. So if you have a cold winter, your cost is going to be more. If you have a mild winter, your cost will be less. So you have to keep that in mind. There's a lot of squishiness in this, but this will at least give you an idea of what's going on. And help you get your head around what it's going to take. But remember, step one is go look at your bills, find out how much you're using to heat and cool your house. You have to figure out what you're paying on average for gas and electric. And then you need to multiply those out so you know what your costs are. So you need to get your cooling and your heating costs to be somewhere close to reality, and go from there. So that's the main thing I wanted to show you all. This is how you can figure out what will it cost to electrify everything. So be sure that you enter in your zip code and that you enter in the costs that you have, and then you use the load calculation to narrow in on what this is. So when you find your cooling cost and your heating cost, you want to play with these to get it so it comes in close to reality, and that is going to give you a pretty good idea. Well, I hope that was helpful to you so that you have some idea of what it might cost to electrify your house moving forward. If you found this video helpful, please like it, share it, subscribe. This is the time of year when I put a lot of content out, usually first quarter. So if you'd like to see when I put stuff out, click the bell so you get a notification when that happens. And ask questions. Anything that you're curious about, please do so. And I'll see you next time. I'm Nate the House Whisperer. Have a great day.